you're still with me, or maybe just joining me, but we're continuing on with the spoke flower blanket. We're up to rounds 5 to 7, which is the start of the blanket 3-round repeat that continues then throughout. So if you can master the 3-round repeat, you won't need the instructions anymore. You'll be able to do it hopefully eventually in your sleep, just about. So what I'll do is just move these out of the way and we'll get started. Well, I'm going to start on another colour, making a super girly cushion here. I'm actually quite enjoying this yarn, I have to admit. I had mixed reviews about it, but I'm finding it to be very nice. So in this case, what we're actually going to do is skip the first stitch in the petal. So if we're going counterclockwise from a front post stitch from the previous round, we're actually going to join the yarn, or 2 stitches in from that front post stitch, or if you were continuing on the same colour, you would slip stitch across to that stitch. So we're now going to be skipping either stitch alongside the front post stitch. It just gives the petals a little bit more definition. And now in this case too, the stitch after each skip stitch is always a half double crochet stitch, because again that just gives the petals a little bit more definition. So I've done a standing stitch, but you could do 2 chains instead. Now in this round, when we're going to have no increase, so that means we're going to have the same number of stitches that we had in the previous round. So now that I've worked my standing half double crochet, I'm going to do 3 stitches into this middle DC. So if you see now with the petal, just so you can start understanding that it's the center point in the petal, that stitch from the second stitch of the 3 DC cluster from the previous round is the middle of the petal, and we're now making 3 more DCs into the middle. And that middle stitch of the 3 DCs that we've just made, that will continue, that will become the middle petal stitch for the next round. And I'm going to do a half double crochet. And now the front post stitches from here on inwards are half double crochet front post stitches, so just bear that in mind. And then skip the next stitch. So I skipped the last petal stitch, half double crochet as a front post stitch, and HDC once I've skipped the first stitch after the front post stitch, HDC in the next stitch. Then we're into the DCs, so 1, 2, 3, half double crochet, front post, half double crochet. Now, just to explain when counting stitches, I've actually got a table at the end of the pattern that will allow you to keep track of your stitch count throughout and just make sure that it is correct per round. It's easy sometimes to accidentally skip a couple of stitches or do 2 DCs instead of 3, etc. So the way that you count stitches, you can see here with the loops, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6, which is the post stitch. So that's the stitches for this particular round per petal. Obviously times 10 for each petal, that's 60 for the round. So this gives you a bit of an idea of how to count them. So there's all the petal stitches and 1 front post stitch in each petal. So what I'm going to do is continue to make those stitches around. So after front post stitch, skipping a stitch, making a half double crochet, making 3 DCs, half double crochet, skipping a stitch, and then the front post stitch. Right, so slip stitched into the first standing half double crochet to complete that particular round. Now I have to excuse my boys yelling and screaming in the background, just, you know, day in the life of. And I need to slip stitch across to the next stitch. And now I'm going to do 2 chain to count for a half double crochet. And then for this round, we're actually going to start increasing the stitches in the petal. So instead of doing 3 in that center stitch, I'm going to do 5 double crochets instead. then a half double crochet, and then again, as for the previous round, all rounds now onwards, we're going to do half double crochet front post stitch. Right, just do one more. So we're skipping the first stitch, which is that one just hiding in there, half double crochet into the next, 5 DCs into the next stitch, which is the center or middle petal stitch, which you'll start to recognize. In testing, a few people found it helpful to put a marker in the center petal stitch. I think it's probably just as easy just to follow. You can just follow it up basically, and after a while you'll start to see where the 3 DCs are and the 5 DCs, and then the center stitch with the 3 DCs either side for the various 3 rounds. So you probably don't necessarily need that, but you could try the marker to begin with if you like. It may help you. All right, so that's 2 completed. So now I'm just going to go around and complete the rest. So that's round 6 done. It's going to try and sneak in the next round. It's getting pretty dark here in little old Adelaide. It's definitely dinner time, but we'll try and just get this done. So round 7 is the last round of the first repeat, 3-round repeat. And this one's a little bit different. Again, I'm going to slip stitch across to the second petal stitch. So that's 2 stitches from the last front post stitch from the previous round. Again, always starting with 2 DC. Now, to make the petals a little bit more rounded, not super rounded, but a little bit more round, instead of making the increase in the middle stitch, we make it in the stitches that are either side of the middle stitch. So 3 DC, in the next stitch, 1 DC in the middle stitch this time, and 3 DC in the next stitch. So that was basically our 3 middle stitches. We did a 3 DC cluster, a 1 DC and a 3 DC cluster, and then we've got the half double crochet again, and skip a stitch and half double crochet over front post stitch over the front post stitch from the previous round, skip a stitch, half double crochet, and working the increase slightly off center. So 1, 2, 3, then a DC in the middle, and 1, 2, 3. Pretty simple, huh? It's kind of addictive though. And then front post stitch, skipping the next stitch, front post stitch again. So with what light is left, I will make, I've tried lighting in the background, but it just throws all sorts of awful shadows. So anyway, we'll go with what we've got at the moment. I'm going to make the remaining, so I've got 2 petals, so the remaining 8 petals, and we'll finish up there. And there we have it. Lots of purple prettiness happening underway. So as I mentioned before, you can change up the types of petals. You can make very pointed petals, or you can make just the standard petals. You can make more rounded petals, and you can change that up throughout the pattern to get different effects. And you can change yarn colours often as you like. You could always change yarn every single round for 1 repeat of the colours, then every 2 rounds for the next repeat, and then every 3 rounds for the repeat after that. From here on in, really, this what we've just done the last 3 rounds applies, in that you're always skipping the stitch next to the front post. The next stitch is always a half double crochet, and then you've got a no increase round, which is just 3 DC in the middle, and an increase round, which is 5 DC in the middle, and another increase round, which is 3 DC either stitch of the middle stitch, and just a DC in the middle. It's pretty simple. So hopefully this has helped. Let me know if you want to see any rounds in more detail.